The snowy day, the young boy woke up and looked out the window. He saw the world covered in white, fluffy snow. He jumped out of bed and ran to the window, pressing his face against the cold glass. The snow was everywhere, on the trees, on the rooftops, and on the ground. It looked like a winter wonderland. He quickly put on his warm clothes, his thick coat, cozy hat, and gloves. He was so excited to go outside and play in the snow. He opened the front door and stepped out into the chilly air. The snow crunched under his boots as he walked. The boy saw his backyard covered in a thick blanket of snow. He couldn't wait to start building a snowman. He started rolling a big snowball, pushing it around and around until it was large enough to be the snowman's body. Then he rolled another smaller snowball for the head and placed it on top. After building the snowman, the boy took a step back to admire his work. He smiled proudly at the snowman standing tall in the yard. Then he heard a voice calling his name. It was his friend from next door, who had come over to play in the snow. Together, they started a snowball fight, laughing and running around as they threw snowballs at each other. The boy's cheeks were pink from the cold, and he felt the thrill of the winter fun. Snowflakes fell gently around them as they played, and the world seemed magical. The boy and his friend were having a blast playing in the snow. They rolled more snowballs and built a snow fort. They pretended they were knights defending their castle from a fierce dragon. The boy's friend pretended to breathe fire while the boy swung a stick like a sword, defending their fortress. As they played, they heard the sound of children laughing nearby. They turned and saw a group of kids from the neighborhood sledding down a nearby hill. The boy and his friend's eyes lit up with excitement. They raced over to join in on the fun. The boy grabbed a sled and climbed to the top of the hill with his friend. They took turns sliding down the slope, the wind rushing past their faces as they laughed and shouted with joy. After a while, the boy started to feel hungry. He and his friend trudged back to his house, leaving their sleds behind. Inside, the boy's mom had prepared a warm meal of chicken noodle soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. The boys ate their food eagerly, warming up from the cold winter air outside. Once they had finished their meal, the boy's friend had to go home. The boy waved goodbye as his friend walked back to his own house. The sun was starting to set, casting a warm orange glow over the snowy landscape. The boy felt tired but happy. He had had an amazing day playing in the snow with his friend. As he watched the last rays of sunlight disappear, he knew that he couldn't wait for another snowy day to come. The boy's friend had left, and the boy was all alone in his yard. He thought about what other fun things he could do in the snow. Suddenly, he had an idea. He decided to make snow angels. He lay down on his back on the soft snow and moved his arms and legs back and forth. When he stood up, he saw two beautiful, angel-shaped imprints in the snow. He smiled at his creation and felt proud of himself. As he admired his snow angels, he heard a familiar voice calling him from across the street. It was his neighbor, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson was holding a carrot and some buttons. "Hello there, young man. I see you've been busy building snowmen and having snowball fights," Mr. Johnson said with a grin. The boy nodded enthusiastically, excited to see what Mr. Johnson had in store. Mr. Johnson explained that he had brought the carrot and buttons to help the boy decorate his snowman. They worked together to give the snowman a carrot nose, button eyes, and a big smile made out of sticks. Once the snowman was all decked out, the boy and Mr. Johnson stepped back to admire their handiwork. The snowman looked jolly and welcoming, standing proudly in the yard. As a gesture of thanks, the boy invited Mr. Johnson inside for a cup of hot cocoa. They sat by the fireplace, sipping their warm drinks and chatting about the joys of winter. The boy was grateful for the unexpected visit and the new friend he had made. After enjoying hot cocoa with Mr. Johnson, the boy felt warm and cozy inside. He thanked Mr. Johnson for the decorations for his snowman and the pleasant visit. As the evening drew near, the boy's mother called him inside for dinner. The boy washed up and sat at the table, feeling grateful for the delicious meal his mom had prepared. The chicken noodle soup warmed his belly, and the grilled cheese sandwich melted in his mouth. After dinner, the boy helped his mom clear the table and wash the dishes. As he finished his chores, he looked out the window and saw the snow twinkling in the moonlight. He felt content and happy, knowing he had enjoyed a wonderful snowy day filled with adventures and new friends. After helping his mom with the dishes, the boy snuggled up in his warm bed. He thought about the snowy day he had spent playing, building snowmen, having snowball fights, and making new friends. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt grateful for the fun and joy that the snowy day had brought him. The boy dreamt of more snowy adventures to come.